Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Connecting with Kim here on Tampa Bay Arts and Education Network. I am your host, Kim Droege, and we are so glad you joined us today because we have another exciting episode of Connecting with Kim. And another first. We have a guest who's never been with us before, but we hope that he won't be a stranger and he'll come back. And before we begin, I want to also mention that you can catch the audio of our show on Sun Radio, 96.3 FM in Sun City Center and on stream. And a shout out to my sponsor, the Spring Boutique and the Spring of Tampa Bay, for providing my on-air wardrobe. I always find wonderful, wonderful things there, and I want you to shop there yourself because all net proceeds support their mission of providing sanctuary and services to survivors of domestic violence and their children. And they've been doing a great job for a long time. They know what they're doing, and I want you to support them, okay? So I am so excited. I'm hoping that I'm not going to behave like a gushy groupie the whole interview. But I was so delighted that this gentleman agreed to come on Connecting with Kim, and I'm not going to hesitate introducing him any longer. We are so happy to welcome Mr. Richard Gonzmart of the Columbia Restaurant Group to Connecting with Kim. Welcome, Richard.
It's great to be with you today.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
And the whole team is. And we also have Pasha with us in the studio. So this is great. And Pasha loves having his picture taken and has been with us. So it's just been wonderful as we gave him a tour of our facilities since he's never been here before. So I always start the same way with all my guests.
Yes.
I let them take a few minutes, and you can take as long as you want, to share a little bit about your life's journey that is going to bring us to why we're sitting down today to talk. Because there may be people out there, and I don't know who those people would be, but there may be people watching and listening that really don't know who Mr. Richard Gonzmart is. And I think we should, you're such a man for all seasons, that's how I think of you, that we should let them know.
You know, this could take hours.
I know it. Unfortunately, they forced me off the air at a certain time.
You know, I'm a fortunate person to have been born into a family that truly cares and loves Tampa. In Ybor City, my great-grandparents came from Cuba, and they came from Spain in 1900, looking for that dream. And so I was fortunate to know my grandfather, who taught me so much about life. My first lesson in the restaurant industry, my first job, was at the age of 3.5 years old.
Wow.
When I walked into the cooler on a Friday night, and I saw these whole fish, and they scared me. And I ran out, and my grandfather says, "¿Qué te pasa, muchacho? What's wrong with you, kid?" I said, "The fish look like they're going to bite me," because they had the eyes and their teeth.
Sure.
He says, "Come inside. This is going to be your job when you come on Friday with your mother to check for the eyes should be clear, and the gills should be dark red and moist, and you get your finger and touch the flesh should be firm, and let me know." And I thought that really was my job. And it was weeks later, I'm crying now. He says, "¿Qué te pasa ahora? Now what's wrong with you?" I can't tell if the fish are fresh, because they didn't have heads. They had already gutted them, they had filleted them, and they took me to the back. They all laughed at me. I felt silly. But they were making the stock for the paella. And so while that kitchen now has been transferred to a new location, 3 times the size, the door that went into that cooler exists.
Oh, I love that.
And when I walk by every time, and I've got to put a marker, I remember that day that my grandfather made me feel like a big boy.
Well, and you know, one thing I love is how you have on your Facebook page that you are the 4th generation caretaker. And I that says so much, that statement, because you inherited a legacy, you have built on that legacy, and you know that you will be handing off that legacy to the next generation.
You know, what I realize is each generation's faced a challenge would define whether they would succeed or not, and what did they do? It's easy to give up. But when they struggled through the different times, you think about the Spanish flu, 1918 and 20, World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, Prohibition. The Columbia Saloon opened December 17, 1903, actually, to serve beer that the Florida Brewery built, and for the workers walking to work, to cigar factories and home. And so what they did in 1935, they built the first air-conditioned dining room with a handshake during the Depression.
Amazing.
So the lessons I've learned are what I've transferred and through my obstacles I faced in '95. I told my nephew, Casey Gonzmart Jr., and my daughter, Andrea, who were the next generation to run it, I said, "I promise you there will be something. I pray to God I'm here." And COVID came. So I went through all the lessons that we've learned. And the number one thing is to take care of those that support our family by working dedicated for years. And we did the equivalent of 9,000 meals a week during COVID to the staff. We paid their 401ks. We paid their hospitalization. We kept as many as employed as much as possible. We sold gift cards, over $240,000 worth to benefit those struggling. And so it made me proud when those funds came down. My daughter said, "Daddy, we need some more."
You should be proud.
Yeah, I'm proud because we're just the caretakers. And when I was a young man, you want to be the president,
Yeah.
CEO.
Yeah.
And there's not many people that can say they're the fourth generation, and for them to be the fifth.
Well, and you know, the other thing I love about that too is that I left home at 18 years old, and I started living all over the place until 2005. I'd always been coming to Florida since I was 4 years old, but I kind of put down roots here in 2005. And I've always looked longingly and just a tiny bit of envy. The people that have these deep roots going back in their community. I think to be the fourth generation in this community is such a, I mean, it's for somebody like me, I can't even understand that.
You know, it's unusual for me to sit next to somebody that's company is older than ours. And the other day I sat next to Jim Furman, whose family started 1897. And,
oh my gosh.
We were there to vote on the Citizen of the Year, the civitan that's granted out at the governor's luncheon at the state fair.
Yes.
And I sat next to Jim. I said, wow, it's amazing that here we are together. That your family were selling bicycles and cars when they didn't exist, and we were cooking beans on rice, and we still do so.
And you still do so. So let's just, before we move on, because you are involved in so many, and this is another thing, I call you a man for all seasons, or a modern Renaissance man, because you dabble in so many different areas. I mean, you play guitar, you have a lot of philanthropic efforts. I'm serious. So before we delve off into that, because I don't want to let any of that go by either, because all of that is significant, let's just run down for everybody what composes or what comprises the Columbia Restaurant Group, or the 1905 as you call it, when I write you.
Well, it's a family business that needs the support. And so in 1995, I created the Columbia Community Harvest, where you can go to any of our restaurants now, all of our concepts together, and you could check off where you would like on the ballot, and we'll donate 5% back to them.
Yeah.
And it's there's no catch. I don't need any information. If you want to be signed up to our email, it's fine. You don't pay for it. We donate it back. And so this last year, I think we donated around $420,000 to about 140 charities, more than ever. And what I told my daughter when we were closed because of the hurricane those 3 days.
Right, I remember that.
I went and calculated what we were going to do, and we made a donation based on the allocation voted by our people. So it wasn't fair to them. And the fact that my daughter and nephew thought it was a great idea makes me feel that we're on the right road.
Oh, you are on the right road. I've met your daughter. In fact, during that hurricane, during Ian, I was supposed to be attending a Bob Clark luncheon on Friday at Columbia, and people that were in that group were writing and kept saying, "Bob, are you still going to do this?" And he was like, "No, and then finally it came down. No, Columbia's going to be closed for the protection of our staff and our community and so on and so forth." But yes, I met
I'm blessed
her.
to have a daughter that grew up in this business. She started when she was 10 years old, takes after her mom and takes after her grandmother. She's a wonderful cook. And last night hosted a wine dinner with a fifth generation winemaker from Spain. It's the next generation. They're passing along. So, I know that we're in great hands, and she's got a passion for life and the person involved in the community.
And that must make, I think, for someone like yourself who got past this legacy, that must really make you feel good too. Because, so many times you see in family businesses where the next generation doesn't really want to do it.
No, they don't. But where people think that each generation had a golden spoon or silver spoon is not accurate. During the 50s urban renewal that was going to revitalize Ybor City, what it did was relocate all the people that lived there. And with that, all the businesses closed, except for ourselves and Segunda Central Bakery. And so those were difficult times.
These were difficult times. So we have the Columbia Restaurant. Now we have Casa Santa de Stefano. We have Eulalie. We have Columbia locations up and down.
Columbia Cafe. You have Goody Goody. You have... we have Cha-Cha Coconuts in Sarasota. We have a concept at the airport called Cafe Con Leche. Ybor that's going to be making a debut in Ybor in a project I'm working on right now. I mean, I'm so excited.
I know, and you're going to write a book, I heard.
Oh, I'm working on that too.
Is the book going to be about? Is it like a memoir? Is it going to be about your life?
It's about my thoughts on life, philosophies. I think it's just easier to be kind than to be mean and nasty. I don't understand this hate. I wasn't taught that. Don't learn that. I've never learned that. Understand everybody, we're all humans and children of God, or whatever you believe.
Exactly.
And if we respect everybody's belief, I want to learn from everybody.
Absolutely, because there is something to learn from everybody.
Yeah, there's something to learn. I respect everybody. Belief or no belief, that's fine. We can sit down and have a chat and just respect one another. So the book's going to be about positivity. On my Facebook page, I just hate with an hate. And if people should start, I will delete it. And if you don't respect the fact this is all about positivity, supporting one another, then I don't think we should be friends.
I don't either.
I will respect your opinion, but just with respect.
Right.
So I wake up at 2, 3 morning, 4. 4 o'clock's the best time. 1 o'clock's okay. I walk at 3 in the morning, or 4 in the morning. But it's time for meditation for me, and I'm a person of great, great faith. And sometimes I don't know why I'm going to post what I said, but there's a reason I'm supposed to. And when I do that, it's amazing how many people said, "You did that just for me." I said, I didn't know who I was doing it for.
No, your posts are always very positive. They're always very uplifting. They're always very encouraging. And I love that, because right now, I tell everybody, you're not going to get anything done at the fringes. You are only going to get things done when we come together in the middle and find out those areas where we have common ground.
The political system worries me because we've gone opposite directions. And I respect the person that's running for office and not the party, but I expect them to discuss and find out what's best for everybody. It just can't be one way.
Well, and you've dabbled across the board. I mean, I've been to political events that you've hosted, and you crossed the board on party and candidates. Yeah,
there's one there, gentleman. I think that he deserves to be reelected, and I'm catching all kind of heat from friends. I think some aren't even going to talk to me.
Oh no.
No, but I said I think you have to have a diverse group. You have to have people on the city council, county commission, in any position that are going to question things.
Absolutely.
I mean, just don't rubber stamp it. And I've seen where some people rubber stamped something, voted on something that didn't realize what they were doing, displacing a facility for children at risk, and are looking for a new home. I mean, it's just, I couldn't be a politician because I would just do what's right. I probably would make everybody mad.
Well, if you're just joining me now and connecting with Kim, my guest in the chair is Mr. Richard Gonzmart, who is the 4th generation caretaker, I'm going to use his words, of the Columbia Restaurant Group. And we have been chatting about his life journey so far, and now we're going to branch off into some of his philanthropic efforts that he's involved in, because I love all that, and I love that he does that. So you have so many passions. So
it all started in 1st grade. Sister Mary John, my mother told me I had to help other people. She gave me $20 for tuition. It's a lot of money. It was a lot of money. They said, make sure you give it to them. So Sister Mary John was doing a fundraiser for the poor children in Central America, orphans, and she had a milk carton. And I put the $20 in. And they didn't know who gave it.
They were probably shocked. A
month later, they called my mother.
Yeah.
You didn't pay the tuition. And my mother's angry. Richard, what did you do with that money? It was a lot of money. Well, you told me to help others, and I gave it to the poor children, and they're orphans. And she started crying.
Oh.
And I get emotional.
I'm sure she was touched.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to handle it.
No, but she
was
hugged
proud
me.
of you.
She hugged me.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized that when you give, sometimes it has to hurt. If it didn't hurt, then you didn't do enough. So that's the first time I did that. I realized that you're supposed to help young kids through school. Don't let anybody be bullied, and stand up because they're a little different. One young man named Bobby Donovan, I went to school 4th through 8th grade, through 12th grade, a genius, but just was a different individual.
Right.
And I just remember standing up for him. When I go talk to young kids, just be nice to everybody. Don't make fun of them. Do you want to be made fun of? No. It's life could be very simple. So that led me to care for health, cancer care, and Moffitt Cancer. We've had making inroads. Very important to me. We have 2 wines named after my dog Rusty and Enzi that benefit University of Florida Vet School oncology research for a vaccine in sarcoma. Working with Shands, the vaccine worked on mice, on dogs, and those 2 wines have now got a clinical trial that this vaccine will work on children, the number 2 cause of cancer in children.
Oh.
And so they would be able to reduce the tumor. So instead of having to amputate to treat it, to me, that's the most thing that makes me the happiest in the world.
It should. I contribute to St. Jude's because I believe in their mission. And when you see, it's wrong. When you see children with cancer, it's like, it's wrong.
Yeah. But Moffitt, they did children originally, and then they had to focus because it's rare. So what's rare is that a child's going to die from cancer.
Right.
When I was 12 years old, my friend Marty Sala, my mother said, was very sick. He had leukemia. 100% chance they're going to die.
Yeah.
He and I had homing pigeons, and his father was a major of the sheriff's office. And when he died, I didn't let anybody know till I was in my 40s how that impacted me. But today, it's 92.8% those children will survive.
Because back then they had no treatments for
leukemia. No
leukemia.
treatment.
No.
And there's more progress being made. And for 20-some years, I've been involved with Moffitt Cancer. And then 9 years ago, the day before my annual Run for Life benefits cancer research, I get a message from Dr. Julio Pal saying to call him, everything's good in your pathology report. I had prostate cancer. I said, I'm glad it wasn't bad. But I wasn't afraid, and I knew that would happen because men won't get tested because I was going every 6 months to get my PSA. And I agreed to do this treatment, brachytherapy, and I was going to do the Boston Marathon. So we'll do it before. They laughed. So the week after Boston Marathon, did the procedure and 2 procedures, and I went home 3 hours later. 3 days later, running 3-4 miles, and then I said to show men, if you get this PSA, you can do well. I scheduled 4 marathons over 6 weeks, and I was going to Moffitt, and to get tested August 27th to see if it worked, and it did. I prayed to God that I would accept whatever it was. But on the way there, I was going out my car and backing it up. My wife's gas cup's open. I get out of the car, and the car's in reverse. The door hits me, throws me into the door.
Oh my God.
The door gets caught by the column of the garage. It slowly pulls it out and allows me to roll out. The car's going reverse. I jump in, get thrown out again. It goes through my neighbor's door. I broke my tailbone.
Oh my gosh.
3 weeks before my first marathon. And Melanie said, what are you going to do? You going to Rochester? Well, I had the ticket going with Andrea. We're going to run. She's going to run. And so when everybody left, I took off. But you just have to overcome. You have to believe.
That's right, and you have to trust in God.
So yeah, animals are important to me.
I know you.
Education. My mom started the Latino Scholarship Program at USF 32 years ago. She was one of the founders of Braulio Alonso. Today we have 3 endowments. We have 31 students this year on scholarship, first generation. And the first student, my mom, after we came out of obstacles in '97, I sponsored Julio Rodriguez. I didn't have the money to do it. My mom said, you have to. I'm going to do his sister, Elsie. Their father was a migrant worker who died in the field, raised by a single mother. They went on to graduate with a 4.0 in engineering, and Elsie was a top senior. She went to New Mexico Nuclear Energy, he to Boeing, and today they have their own scholarship.
Oh, that must make you so...
6 months
it's come full circle.
6 months afterwards, he came to see me at Christmas. He went to talk to me. I came to see my mom, but I wanted you to know when I was in Brandon High School, I used to look out the windows to wonder where I was going to be picking tomatoes or strawberries. Mm. You changed my life. So, we don't know. You could easily sponsor somebody.
You never know what the kindest, smallest thing that you do for somebody else, where it's going to lead.
So you look at the 400 plus have graduated, have doctors. The first student my mom sponsored, we gave the scholarship at the Columbia. She's a medical doctor at UCLA Medical. Oh my gosh. So these children that have a desire and the talent, and my daughter's very involved in the board, and so that's what's important to us, to give children. So we're starting now in first grade too. In middle school, and we're working. I donated the equipment for a kitchen to teach kids at the AMI, American Marine Institute. These are children that have been in trouble.
Right.
And
AMI kids.
AMI kids.
They've been on my show before.
So,
not here at CBA, but
so
before.
we've gotten funding now for that.
Yep.
So we're getting them to teach them how to be plumbers, electricians, or even truck drivers at Gordon Food Service, a family business we do business with, that pay good salaries. Or chefs that could get paid. I don't want dishwashers. I want these young people to have confidence. If they come into my restaurant, I want them not to start as a dishwasher, although I started as a dishwasher, my favorite job. My daughter started as a dishwasher, the first female to work in our restaurant. We have to give these kids hope. It's when I invited all these kids to come to me and my kids, they'd never been to a restaurant like that.
Oh, I'm sure not.
So I believe that one by one, these children sometimes will seek out attention. Might be bad. So
But it's still attention, right?
Yeah. So if we can get them in, and then they can be an example, and we'll get more children wanting to do well. I think that's the way this has to work. That instead of not giving children hope, you have to give them hope. I struggled in school. At the age of 43, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADD. It all became very clear. I went to Jesuit high school 17 years ago. They sent me my transcripts, and I called, is this some form of blackmail? But it's clear. I credit my education at Jesuit high school for who I am and understanding and the struggles I went through. And so I wouldn't
Because back then, they didn't know about ADD.
They didn't know.
They didn't know about dyslexia and ADD.
I
They just thought you were weird,
I was
right?
a running back, and I'd have to
Yeah.
ask. I'd run 30 times a game, and I have to ask the quarterback, am I going this way? And all my friends said they never thought I'd ever succeed. I transpose numbers.
Right.
I read differently.
Right.
I have a wonderful gift. People call it a disability. I said I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but what you do is you learn to surround yourself with talented people.
Well, and also you're overcoming your whatever the issue is. You know, it motivates you. It leads to other avenues,
There's
right?
other adults that have it.
Right,
Maybe you feel
everybody.
embarrassed. Don't feel embarrassed.
No.
And so I have my transcripts on my desk when I meet with students. I share it with them. And I said, I think they made the grades better because I was being recruited to play at many schools, Michigan State and Florida State, et cetera.
But you weren't going to pursue that.
No, because they were going to make me study PE. And I told my dad, you want me to be a football player? So that's the way it went, but it's education is all it is, and I continue. I didn't get my degree in college. I decided after 3 years I got married to my childhood sweetheart, who I met at 13, I was 15, we married when we were 18 and 20. We went to Spain, where I went to my school my last year.
And you're still married to her.
50 years.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And she's my
You should be
wife.
very proud.
I'm fortunate.
We were hoping she was going to join us today, but she didn't make it to the studio.
But when I'm invited to go to Babson College, I'm going down to a school in the country now 17 years, and named one of the top 1 or 2 third speaker, University of Tampa, Masterclass USF. I try to look what I have to do except just bring you real life. I believe in being brutally honest because you don't have to have a good memory. And it's the God's honest truth. So you never change your story. I don't think people believe some of the stuff I say, but everything I say is true.
Well, you can't argue with honesty. I mean, there wasn't a Mark Twain that said if you're always honest, you don't have to.
Yes, what I tell our staff is I don't care how long we've been in business, we're only as good as the last meal. And whatever we do in Tampa or Sarasota or St. Augustine or Celebration or Sand Key affects our family's company.
Exactly.
Our 2,000 employees now. And so it's really important that we all care, make them feel like families. So I treat them like
because a lot
family.
of people, they'll come to Tampa and go to the Columbia. They have specifically planned that dinner at the Columbia, and for them, it's a very special event.
You know, to me, sometimes family members don't understand why I love to go there to talk to people. And if my staff doesn't tell me they want to talk to me, I'd love to go take pictures and talk to people.
And play the guitar.
Hey,
I think they should let you play the guitar.
Oh gosh, I'm going to be playing with the band I play with, Bobby Donovan's brother, Joey, and he's about 3 years younger than me. We'll play music from the 60s. So if you go into my office, I have 140 guitars.
Oh my God.
I have a drum kit, I have a keyboard, I have amplifiers, I have congas, and so I've told Melanie I'm going to go on tour when I retire. She says I better have a lot of credit cards because I'm going to starve. But when you play and you have fun, people enjoy it.
Of course they do, and I'm amazed that you have all those instruments. I mean, I always wanted to be a drummer. My dad wanted me to learn the guitar. I said, no, I want to be a drummer.
Yeah.
I like percussion. That's what I want to do.
Well, my mom was a graduate at Juilliard School of Music, a pianist. And my dad, a doctorate, and he was a violinist. And I played the violin, I played piano. And then here I am, 13 years old, playing with people that can't play music in their house. But they were always encouraging. And so where I'm not the artist they are, nor am I ever going to try to be them, I just have to be me. and I love to play.
Just be you.
You're
great.
Oh God, listen, I love to have fun.
We only have a couple minutes left, so I don't want this interview to end before we talk about when you go to Eulalie, the beautiful characters that you're going to see from fairy tales at Eulalie. We have to cover that before we're done.
It's a childhood memory when my grandparents would take me there, and my parents. I love seeing Snow White and the little pigs and Cinderella and the carriage and all the figurines, the little itsy bitsy spider.
And where was this now before people that don't know?
It's at what is now Zoo Tampa.
Zoo Tampa was Lowry Park.
Lowry Park. And so they were thrown in a field by the city, discarded, and the mayor found out I wanted them. They didn't want to give them to me. The city wanted to give them to me. They didn't want to. They put them at auction. And there was been somebody against me, and I said I was going to buy every one. I'm going to restore each one. So we just put the Cinderella, carriage and the horses. We have Humpty Dumpty sitting on the wall.
I know.
And somebody says, what happens if a hurricane comes? I guess Humpty Dumpty will have a bad fall.
And we'll put it back together again.
But I'm trying to stimulate children's memories.
Absolutely.
Imagination. So we've got the little stories. We had to rewrite them because they're pretty tough, some of the stories. We're going to put QR codes. So I want children to have the parents read to them, and that they want to learn to read and have their imagination wandering the way mine does.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I've seen the pictures of them. I haven't seen them up close and personal yet at Eulalie, but I'm so happy that you did that.
When I used to go to Plant Park, which is University of Tampa, my grandfather used to have animals there in the bronzes. We go feed the minnows. So at the spring there, that's the Eulalie Spring, I have fish food. It's free of charge. We'll give you, so you can give them to your children to see the fish coming up. I mean, that's a memory that I have still here today at 70 from the time I was 4 years old. I want the children to have those memories with their grandparents, their parents.
Well, I could literally, I can't even see that timer, Bernie, but I think I'm out of time.
I could literally talk to you for hours. This is the one time when I've sat here and thought, I wish my show was longer. But you have to promise me you'll come back. Because
we can sit down and have lunch and you'll hear more stories.
I would love it. And because you've always got something fantastic and interesting going on in your life.
If these tables could talk.
Yes. If they do.
I will tell you. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you for being my guest on Connecting with Kim. If you're just joining us now, we had Richard Gonzmart in the chair today, the fourth-generation caretaker of the Columbia Restaurant Group and a man for all seasons because he is involved in so many wonderful things. I appreciated his presence. Thank you again for tuning in. Come back next week for another great edition of Connecting with Kim. And a final shout-out to my sponsor, the Spring of Tampa Bay, who provides my on-air wardrobe, my jewels, and everything else. Go visit my Instagram and Facebook pages if you want to know exactly what came from the boutique and what you can find there after the show is over. So thank you for joining us today. Come back next week. So long. Take care. Our little corner of paradise is better today because you watched this show.